Welcome back to 101 East, where this week we're considering the impact that foreign aid spending has had on Cambodia. Now, before the break, we looked at one project, a $40 million national highway that's made transport around the country much easier. But one unintended effect of that road has been the displacement of thousands of families. 58-year-old Sin Ching tells us now how foreign aid spending has impacted her life.
When I lived by the old National Road, I earned a living selling coffee and food to the passing travelers. I was able to support my family and even have some left over to spend on myself. One day, some government officials came and told me about the construction of the national highway. They asked me to move my house back to make way for the road. My house used to be located at this point where I am standing now. But in 2000, the construction team made us move 25 meters back from the road. They told us our house was located on the road and the government would only give us money to remove my house. After that, I didn't have money to build a new house, so I borrowed from others to build a new home. After we moved and the highway was built, my shop lost business. I didn't have any plantation or rice field, so I can't earn enough money to support my family. My children stopped going to school so they could move to Phnom Penh to earn some money. In 2006, I joined an NGO to meet officials from the Asian Development Bank. I asked them for compensation and they promised to solve my problems. But I still have not heard from them.
And welcome back to the conversation about whether foreign aid into Cambodia has been productive or in equal measure destructive. I'm still joined by our guests today. ARJUN GOSWAMI is the country director of the Asian Development Bank, SENG, executive director of the Center for Social Development, and Dr. CHAP SOTHARITH, executive director of the Cambodia Institute for Cooperation and Peace. Now, before the break, we had some very specific accusations. Let me get your perspective on this. Has the benefits of aid also brought with it the kind of backward elements that SENG was talking about before the break?
You know, I think there's no country in the world have a perfect, perfect in terms of aid utilization. There's a lot of misconduct, there's a lot of mismanagement, but for me, if you ask about the constraint, of the effectiveness of the aid, I would say that there may be the assistance sometimes is we call concentration and fragmentation. Concentration means some assistance will focus more into particular area rather than other area which is underutilized, underfunded.
It seems to me there must be two elements to this, and as a long-term member of the aid community, you probably recognize the structures of that community better than most. There must be something endemic in the structures that the West has created for these agencies that gives rise to this to a certain extent.
You know, to me, the issue is what kinds of checks and balances are built into the system. If one makes the assumption that there will never be a problem in a structure, then I think one is living in a fool's paradise. That's simply not realistic. The issue is, our development partners is the aid community working with others to create that kind of check and balance system. And I think the answer to that is, yes, we've been working hard on that. And civil society and NGOs play a crucial role in this. This is the other part of the triangle.
What you seem to be saying is that you're happy with the extent of the mismanagement, of the corruption, of the stuff that's going on as a necessary corollary to what you're doing on the good side.
No, I wouldn't say that, but there's a development process that the country is going through. There are serious issues and challenges in the area of governance. The risks related to governance are real, and these are ones that we have to tackle systemically. It's not a question of preaching from the bully pulpit. I think that method doesn't yield good results. It is a question of building the systems within the government and building reforms and reform constituencies within the country that will sustain better governance for the country.
Arjun makes a good point in saying that you can't have systems like this where there isn't some leakage around the edges. How much are you prepared to accept on this? I mean, how much of this economic development would you be prepared to sacrifice in order to solve some of the problems that you're seeing?
I agree that it's the nature of the beast of the international aid community, because international donors aren't monolithic. They don't have a united front or a united voice. They're uncoordinated. They have different diverse national interests and different motivations, and they're managed by human beings who are flawed. And ultimately, at the end of the day, the interests of the Cambodian people are not at the core of the issue. It becomes the personal interests of that. And I'm positive because I'm experiencing it. Because if the Cambodian interest is at the heart of the issue, then fighting to make it sustainable, working to make aid sustainable for Cambodians would be the core, would be at the heart, and to cut dependency. Because the problem is dependency. So my criticism can be summed up into two words: dependency, which is an ill, and then the widening chasm of inequity between the rich and the poor. And international assistance is enabling the rich to be richer.
Well, let me just address that one point first. The question of, is the aid community actually doing this for the benefit of Cambodians? Do you think that they are or not?
Yes, of course. You know, for example, I think the most of the big benefit that Cambodian can get from the foreign aid is the capacity building. We can see a lot of technical assistance, that transfer of technology from the foreigner to the Cambodians.
But is that having an impact on how the aid is worked, distributed, coordinated?
Development partners are becoming much more responsive to the needs of the country and are attuned much more to the needs of the country. And if you take our institution as an example, the fact that we're moving heavily into areas of agriculture and rural development where the majority of the poor live, those sort of issues is an indication of that. And that's responding really to ground level needs.
Are you seeing this kind of progress in terms of how it's being handled, or do you think it's getting worse?
There is progress, again, but it's the opportunity cost of billions of dollars that have been poured in. If all we can show for billions are roads, and at the same time the dependency are being embedded, then we have to ask whether it's worth it, whether it has been managed well. So this is a problem. And for me, for example, capacity building, it's true, it has increased the capacity of local Cambodians in owning up to and to be more professional, to be managers. But for example, in 1993, we do need 99% of the foreign consultants. Now, I believe that we need no more than 5 to 10%.
You wanted to respond?
In some ways, the most interesting thing that I saw recently was a poll. They carried out a poll of about 2,000, 3,000, admittedly a small sample. 77% of the country believe that the country is moving in the right direction based on the sort of infrastructure that's been built. Not just roads, schools, other construction, etc. Are there concerns in the country? Yes, the poll points that out. But all of this suggests that movement is in the right direction. Not to diminish the seriousness of the challenges, of course.
Perhaps one of the more worrying long-term accusations is the one of dependency culture. Do you think that there is one here already? And how much do you fear that this will become entrenched and determine the future of Cambodia?
Of course, we can survive without the foreign aid. But foreign aid will be a big part, you know, for development fund that we still need at least another 10 to 20 years, because Cambodia is still a low-income country. We, of course, in the case that the trench, we have found gas and oil. I think it's a big part of the future revenue that can cover, you know, some of development.
Of all the problems that you've mentioned and the worries that you have, what kind of solutions do you think there are? What are the most important things that you think needs to be done to counter the problems that you see?
Well, for international assistance, not to just train and train and train on capacity building, but open space for Cambodians to own up and to exercise what they have learned. And I believe there's still a ceiling on what they can do in terms of opportunities, because it sounds right to train and train and train, pour all the money to have foreign consultants, whereas a Cambodian person could have done that same job, to do and embed the mentality of dependency, instead of opening up the forum and space for Cambodians to actually exercise ownership and what they have learned in terms of capacity.
There we will have to wrap it up. Thank you all very much indeed for being with us today. And that's it for this edition of 101 East. See you again next time.